Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about an intelligent box set. It's actually one of the good ones. It's The Art of Riccardo Chailly. This is 16 discs. It's one of these Italian productions that we've mentioned previously. And, one of the advantages of doing a slightly smaller box, not always, but in this case, is that, there is a Chailly Symphony Edition, which has tons and tons and tons of stuff. And now, Chailly is a wonderful conductor for the most part, and everything he does is basically solid, but not always too exciting. So when you have his complete Bruckner cycle, his complete Mahler cycle, his complete Brahms cycle, etc., you're going to get your proportion of wonderful and less wonderful, because there's just so much stuff, because everybody recorded too much. And Chailly was no exception. He recorded a lot, and he's still recording, so there you go. But in this particular case, it's all about the choice. It's all about what you pick, and sometimes they know how to pick them, and sometimes they really don't. So we're going to go through all 16 CDs, and we're going to talk about whether they're good or bad and what the average is. I will say up front, here's a case where the selections are generally well made, and they give a fine overview of Chailly's career as a conductor. And I really enjoyed most of them. I mean, very, very much. I have to say that, some old friends came back, some new things that I forgot existed came back, and it's kind of fun to go through this particular set. So, let's begin at the beginning. It starts with the Bruckner 7. Now, we just did a Bruckner 7 survey, so as you all know, Chailly's Bruckner 7 with the Radio Symphony Orchestra Berlin is one of the great ones, unquestionably. And it was, as I mentioned in that, overview, one of the performances that really told us that this was a conductor of tremendous substance and insight. And, until then, he was given sort of the typical, he was a Rossini guy. He was an Italian conductor who had to do sort of Italian music. But here he marched into Berlin, took on our Bruckner Symphony, and just knocked it out of the park. And good for him. And from then on, he was sort of a voice that we needed to take a lot more seriously. And then, of course, in Berlin, he did that great Das klagende Lied and Gerlieder and some Schoenberg. There's more Berlin stuff here. And it was really a wonderful thing to see his career blossom until he took over the Concertgebouw. So, good start, guys. Next, Tchaikovsky, Romeo and Juliet, and Francesca da Rimini. I don't remember these. I had no clue that these things existed. This is with the Cleveland Orchestra. Of course, in Cleveland, he did that spectacular Rite of Spring, which could have fit on this disc, and I really wish they'd thrown it on there. That would have taken this particular little disc up to a whole other level. The Romeo and Juliet is very good, very exciting. Neither of these performances drags, which is wonderful. The only thing about the Francesca is that it needs more tam-tam at the end. I don't know why he wimped out at the very end of Francesca. I mean, that's a piece that requires no subtlety whatsoever. You just have to pull out all the stops and go for broke, and he doesn't quite. I find the performance a bit over-controlled, although, of course, it's Cleveland. It's very beautifully played. It's beautifully recorded. The disc time is a little bit short. As I said, they could have put on the Rite of Spring, but it was kind of fun to see that these things existed, as it was this Tchaikovsky Fifth. Chailly has not been a big Tchaikovsky conductor, which is also sort of an interesting fact, I guess. This is with Vienna Phil, and it's a very good Tchaikovsky Fifth. It's just beautiful, well played, straight ahead. Not the most personal interpretation out there, but quite successful in its way, and I was happy to hear it. It really was really nice to know. Dvorak's Carnival Overture and the New World Symphony with the Concertgebouw. This is not my choice for New Worlds. Carnival's very good, by the way. It's kind of like, it's a good conductor with a great orchestra doing their thing. I wouldn't say it's as ordinary as, your average subscription evening concert, where you just go and go home afterwards and you're reasonably well satisfied because you've heard some good music. well played. It's better than that. But, there's so many great performances of the New World, and this is not going to be on anyone's list of them, I don't think. But still, quite enjoyable, very pleasant, nothing to sneer at. Kind of like that Zubin Mehta recording. Some of those, too, they were just, superior playing, very good interpretation, by conductors who understand this sort of late romantic repertoire, and they do it well. It's okay. It's good. This is interesting. This one's really interesting. This is Mendelssohn's Scottish Symphony, the third piano concerto, and the Hebrides. But these are all sort of earlier versions than the most recent published versions. Now, I'm not a version person. I don't think we should do a Bruckner for everybody who might have done something earlier or done a sketch or done a previous version and who revised. Mendelssohn was incredibly self-critical, and he actually published very little in his lifetime. He was very hesitant to publish, and he constantly revised his work. There's no percentage in going back to earlier versions of his music. None whatsoever. I really believe that. In the case of the third piano concerto, he didn't even write a third piano concerto. There's some sketches, they threw them together. It sounds kind of like the first and second piano concerto, only less. To me, it's pointless. But with that said, these are excellent performances. They're with the Gewandhaus, which was Mendelssohn's orchestra. Not that that matters because, it's only a couple centuries later. But the performances are very beautiful. You get an opening early sketch of the Scottish Symphony, if you care about that. And the third piano concerto is very, very well played by Roberto Proceda, who's done a big box of all the Mendelssohn piano music, which is very, very much worth having. And you get an earlier version of the Hebrides. This was, sort of edited by Christopher Hogwood, who also recorded some of this stuff. But like I said, the performances are first rate. If you're really, really, really diehard Mendelssohn curious, I would recommend them. They're recommendable anyway as simply beautiful performances of Mendelssohn. So, you could do worse. Again, the whole concept there doesn't thrill me. But I can't fault the performances. I cannot. Nor can I fault the performers for wanting to do something other than the same old, same old. And where else are you going to find a great performance of the third piano concerto? So it's a recommendable disc. Don't get me wrong. My own personal feelings about this business with, keeping musicologists in business is a whole other issue that we will touch on at various points where it's applicable. Now, Rossini overtures with the La Scala Orchestra. So this is different from his National Philharmonic 2-disc Rossini overture set. These are quite wonderful. You get a whole passel of them, 10 of them. You get, William Tell, Il Signor Bruschino, Bianca e Faliero, the Barber of Seville, Il Barbiere di Siviglia, Armida, Semiramide, Lignano Felice. You don't hear that one every day, do you? Matilda de Chabron, okay. Demetrio e Polibio. Yeah, Demetrio e Polibio. And La Gazza Ladra. An interesting collection of Rossini overtures, some familiar, some unfamiliar. Bartok, Concerto for Orchestra, The Miraculous Mandarin. Now, this Concerto for Orchestra did not make it to my list of great concertos for orchestra. And the reason, I'm hearing it again, the reason is because the finale strikes me as just a little bit deliberate. It's just a little bit deliberate, but it's amazingly transparent. And as some of you pointed out in the comments, the playing is spectacular. And up to that point, it's pretty fabulous. So if the slowish finale doesn't bother you, go for it. The Miraculous Mandarin is spectacular. It's the most instrumentally transparent performance I think I've ever heard without sacrificing anything of, excitement. The chase fugue and all that stuff is absolutely thrilling. And like I said, the instrumental detail is just phenomenal. I mean, whoever knew that there were like woodwind hoogies behind the string parts in that fugue? But you hear them, you hear everything. It's astonishing. Gershwin with Cleveland, Rhapsody in Blue, Lullaby, An American in Paris, and the Cuban Overture. And of course, they don't even tell us who the pianist is in the Rhapsody in Blue. And there's the Lullaby for String Orchestra here. I am so curious about this. I'm going to find out who the pianist is. Wait a minute. There's a booklet. I can't believe that they don't tell us who the pianist is on the album. Wait a minute. Oh, it's the two-piano version with Katia and Marielle Lebec. Blah! Who cares about that? And then you get American in Paris and the Cuban Overture, which are both very good. I remember that. I remember this disc. I didn't listen to it. I have to be honest. I didn't listen to this again because I remembered Katia and Marielle Lebec. I mean, they were just running around doing all kinds of pointless things, and this was one of them. But the rest of the Gershwin stuff is very nice. I don't see any reason in ever listening to the Rhapsody in Blue for two pianos and orchestra. Sorry, guys, ladies. Oh, Mahler 5. This was a superb Mahler 5. It's one of the best performances in his Mahler cycle. It's excellently done, soup to nuts, first rate. Don't need to say more about it. Okay, here's a sort of Frenchish thing. You get Bolero, Debussy's Sarabande and Danse, and Mussorgsky's Pictures in an Exhibition. And we know that this is an Italian production because it's Pictures in an Exhibition, or Quadri di un'esposizione. Yes, exactly. Couldn't have put it better. Bolero is gorgeous. The Debussy is ephemeral. And the Pictures is a little bit on the slow and heavy side for my taste. It's another one of those versions where, sometimes I think conductors have such great orchestras on hand, that they just want to lay back and wallow in the wonderful sounds they make. And it is gorgeous. It is truly gorgeous. But boy, that great Gate of Kiev kind of hangs fire. It really does. Sorry, guys. It could have been more exciting, and it should have been. Oh, but here's a beautiful disc. Why does everyone do the Second Viennese School so well? And why does everyone hate the Second Viennese School? Such a pity! Oh, we got Schoenberg's Verklärte Nacht in a 29-minute version, which is a little teeny bit faster than it usually goes, and I think that's wonderful because I despise Verklärte Nacht. So you do it a little quicker, I'm usually very happy. I just find it to be it's chromatic sludge time. But this is a beautiful performance with the Berlin Radio Symphony Orchestra. Again, it was, one of those recordings that showed that Chailly was a musician of great ability and seriousness. So, go for it if you love it. Then you've got Schoenberg's 5 orchestral pieces, Weber's Passacaglia, and the orchestration of the Berg Sonata with the Concertgebouw. The Berg was a coupling, remember, to like Mahler 4 or Mahler 1 originally. These were really, really great performances. I mean, you can't fault them. Fabulous disc, really fabulous disc. And this is too Stravinsky, Petrushka, and Pulcinella complete with the Concertgebouw. I mean, Chailly's Stravinsky recordings were all uniformly top notch, absolutely top notch, and they've been recorded and excerpted and recoupled and whatever, and you just can't do better. They're magnificent. The sound is magnificent. The playing is magnificent. It's all just great. Next, the highlights of his complete Viennese edition. Tuning up Amérique, the poem Électronique, Arcana, Nocturnal, and Un Grand Sommeil Noir. Well, these Viennese performances immediately shot to the top of the heap, and I have to be contrarian and say not to the top of my heap. They are superb. There's no question about it. However, this is another one of those things where he uses the original version reconstructed of Amérique. It has sort of offstage brass things going blah, in various places, and and they go blah very well. But I prefer my blahs to be performed in the orchestra. I think Viennese's orchestra revision, it's for slightly smaller forces, but I think it makes the piece much more immediate and punchy. I am not a fan of that original version because I don't think it adds anything to have some of these extra orchestral lines. And for me, the piece is just more soft-edged than it usually is in the standard version. And there are many great, great, great recordings of Amérique, and we'll be talking about more of them at some point, including Dochnani's with Cleveland. Oh my God. So it's a great Viennese disc. One of the great ones, let's just say. And some of you may have preferences for individual other versions, as do I, for the reasons stated. This is a great disc. Great disc of Berio transcriptions. You get, let's see, Henry Purcell, the modification and instrumentation of a famous hornpipe as a merry and altogether sincere homage to Uncle Alfred, which is only a minute long. You get some Bach Art of Fugue stuff, because you got to have Bach Art of Fugue stuff. Boccherini, you get the, where's 4 versions of the Ritrata Notturna di Madrid, which is quite interesting. Mozart's variations on Papagina's aria Ein Mädchen oder Weibchen. I mean, these are really, really good. The Schubert rendering, which is, widely considered to be a masterpiece of Berio's sort of pastiche transcription kind of thing, and it is. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful work. And an orchestration of the Brahms Sonata for Clarinet in F minor, Opus 120, number 1. Wow. I mean, this is just a spectacular disc. It's with the Orchestra Sinfonica di Milano Giuseppe Verdi. Another one of those orchestras with too long a name. Why not just call it the Verdi Symphony? And leave it at that. Next, the Turangalila Symphony, one of the great ones. It's, one of the performances of choice on anybody's short list. The playing is astonishing. You've got Jean-Yves Thibaudet on the piano, and Takashi Harada on the ondes Martineau, which is extremely well captured, so you get to hear it go woo, woo, which you got to hear in the Turangalila Symphony. I mean, there's no reason to listen to the Turangalila Symphony if you can't hear the ondes Martineau doing its thing. It's one of the few pieces where the ondes Martineau part really matters, and it's a knockout. It always was. And last but not least, Shostakovich. Remember those great discs? The jazz album, the dance album, Shostakovich theater music? There were 3 of them. This has got Moscow Cherry-Mushki, the Bolt Suite, and the Gadfly Suite. These are with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and they are absolutely, totally, fantastically fabulous. And that, my friends, is disc 16. So, like I said, I don't think there's a dud in this box. There are some ordinary things that may not be as thrilling as others in the repertoire. Maybe out of 16, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. But there isn't anything that falls below a very, very, very high level of achievement, superb playing, excellent recording, mostly great interpretations throughout. And here, finally, I get to yell and scream and jump up and down about a box set that really is worth every penny if you don't have these performances. The Art of Chailly. It helps, of course, to have a very consistently fine conductor, unlike the, for example, Bartok boxes or the Simon Rattle box or some of these other things that they've tossed out there willy-nilly. A smart and serious and sensible collection that really does represent the conductor's art at its very finest. Go for it. Go for it. And keep on listening, folks. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.